Greetings, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to this latest edition of Re-TFOS, where I take old stories I've narrated and update them to modern audio standards. This particular story is called The Impossible Part 2 of a 6-part series. There is a playlist listed down below in the description, and as always, I hope that you enjoy. It was a magnificent wedding. 24 high-profile guests had gathered, some from very far away, at the jaw-droppingly beautiful Lake Wanaka in New Zealand. The photographer was a master, the food was absolutely divine, and the staff were all amazing. Guests at the ceremony had tears in their eyes. The look of pure, gentle affection on the groom's face as he lifted the veil off his bride-to-be made the assembly audibly sigh. The celebrant delivered a speech on love that tugged at the heartstrings. Then the speech closed. Permission to kiss was given, and a phone in the audience rang. A sea of faces, the bride and groom, the gathered friends and relatives, the staff of the venue, all turned ice-cold stares of pure incredulous shock as the bride's big sister, sitting up in the front row, pulled a hot pink smartphone, squawking Rick Astley's "Never Gonna Give You Up" to the assembly from a hidden pocket and uncaringly answered it. She stood, phone still in her ear, kicked off to her heels, and promptly sprinted from the room, leaving everyone behind along with their shoes. 2 minutes later, she was speeding in an airborne Uber drone to the Christchurch space link, ignoring the calls from furious relatives and cursing that Dunedin didn't have one. Half of an hour later, she was on a fast-tracked United Earth Force military-grade Skyraker-class star shuttle, ripping at almost 10,000 meters per second towards a wormhole on the Earth halo connected to the Giuliani system. A hair under 3 hours after abandoning her sister at the altar, Dr. Samantha Reyes touched down on Prometheus Alpha and immediately demanded to speak with Commander Church. Ship number 3449, designation Zydus. Position Z17634, X21108, Y84563. Protocol dictated that on first contact with a new race, certain things had to happen in a particular order. Firstly, translation equipment must be updated. After many first contact occasions, this process was very streamlined. Chief analysts suspected the Scalay would be able to make themselves understood within a day of the software decoding the language. Within 2, they would be able to communicate as if they had been speaking the same tongue since birth. Then a warpod had to be loaded up with all available data on the new discovery and sent as fast as possible to the nearest friendly planet. The broodmother would want to gather an armada in case the new contact was hostile. It had happened before. Then the senior crew had to hold a meeting and discuss the next steps. That was why all members of the leader cast had gathered on the bridge, which doubled as their meeting room. Naturally, Chief Analyst was doing most of the speaking. Our sensors are picking up the number of bizarre spatial anomalies around the megastructure, into which most of the gathered energy is being beamed. It stands to reason these humans have some kind of technology centered around holding energy in a pocket of folded space. The implications of this are very exciting. A single battery with infinite storage would eliminate the need for multiple stage jumps with periods of recharge. Chief Analyst's tale betrayed her excitement. How they built the structure is still, I'm still gathering data. The mass requirements alone it's likely from the position of the innermost planet and some of the orbital trajectories of certain points of localized space debris that, there was a 6th planet closer to the star than Prometheus that was, consumed. Consumed? Used up entirely. There is sufficient mass in this megastructure to suggest an entire Skull-class world has broken down and repurposed to put it together. They broke down a planet completely and used that mass to swallow a star. Likely a little more than one, actually. The chunks of mass surrounding Prometheus are probably leftover materials remaining in orbit, partially processed. The human base on the surface also has impact abrasions suggesting it was not built on the planet's surface, but rather dropped there. It's possible the base was built on a now-gone planet, then moved as it was extinguished and placed in the Prometheus to gather the last scraps of mass required to complete the structure. This is also supported by the close examination of the planet's surface. which is unnaturally regular and patterned, suggesting an entire layer of the crust has been stripped clean. Captain swallowed the question that leapt to mind as she answered it herself. The energy requirements for shifting an entire base between planets would be insane, but a tiny drop in the sea of power they would be drawing even at that incomplete point of construction. So, that's where they got the mass energy requirements for construction speaks for itself. Scientifically, the entire process is surprisingly straightforward. The only real mystery remaining is, the labor. It was the single most prohibitive part of construction. Even the entire Scalay brood, some of 3 trillion drones gathered to a single star to work. The time to build something like this should still be measured in centuries, but not 2 standard years. Captain, I believe you did ask about why they needed all that energy. Yes. The response was that it was, for us? They are giving the energy to us. No. Aside from meeting all the energy needs, they made the megastructure to get the attention of theoretical alien lifeforms by making a star disappear. What? An extended moment of silence followed the question. The biggest structure in the history of civilization, and they made it to act as a galactic beacon. What about the species themselves? Society, biology, general disposition? They appear to have a binary gender system, much like the Talon. Chief Analyst flicked over to a new readout on the screen she was reading her data from. Their culture is very individualistic. Every single member of their race has their own name, with double-ups only existing due to coincidence. The names also have standalone meanings in their language without wider implications. Captain flicked her tongue, absorbing the information. She had been called Captain since she was born, a name she shared with millions of other members of her race who were created and raised for a single purpose. All right, listen up, everyone. Chief Analyst and her team have confirmed that our races breathe comparable atmospheres, making it more or less certain that this is another race that shares common ancestry with the great bioseed. That means we have no excuse not to touch down on their base and meet the humans face to face. The time has already been arranged, so let's get some things straight before we go down there. Station Prometheus Alpha, in orbit around material world Prometheus, observing the Sagan Dyson sphere around Juliana 6. Commander Thomas Church was operating on a very little sleep. Since the Scalay had arrived, the base had been frantic. A parade of scientists, diplomats, and analysts had been pouring in from the wormhole connected to Earth's halo. Most recently, Earth's preeminent xenobiologist had made the trip here from New Zealand in record time. She caught up with Church while he was walking to his bunk to get some sleep before the meeting, poring over the data even as she talked. Nitrogen, oxygen, atmosphere, snake-like appearance, no visible eyes, though they apparently do see. Their range of vision is shifted further towards ultraviolet light, with only a small overlap with the human visible spectrum. Fascinating. Dr. Reyes moved with the pace of a hurricane. Church hadn't even found the chance to ask why she was barefoot or wearing a bridesmaid's dress. You made first contact. Oh, that makes me so jealous. What is the dialogue centered around? Naturally, many of their questions were centered around the Sagan sphere. Not only how we built it, but also why we need it, said Church. Dr. Ray's head snapped up from a datapad at that statement. What did you tell them? That the sphere was mostly to get their attention. Incidentally, what is your clearance level? Violet. She flashed a UEF ID card. Chill out, Commander. I know all about Project Genesis. Good job keeping that quiet, by the way. Wouldn't want them learning too much right off the bat. They arrived at the crew quarters. Commander chose to excuse himself even while Dr. Ray's yammered on before setting his alarm and hitting the sack. Big day tomorrow. Planet Scalay 1, City Number 1, Sanctum Number 1. The Great Sleep was nearing its end. Broodmother Turris could feel the stirring within her hibernation chamber. The heat was rising. The nutrition tubes had tripled their activity. Hundreds of Praetorian drones bustled around the chamber in a state of euphoria. 800 years was a long time to wait. Now they only had a handful of weeks, maybe days. The broodmothers didn't always get along. As a matter of fact, there was, at any given time, some form of gigantic war between war queens going on across the brood. But today, they were all linked. The same message repeated itself across the echo chamber that was their shared psychic space, some gleeful, others in tired resignation. The Grand Queen awakens. End of chapter. I would just like to thank the T5 supporters: Bushmaster 117, Caspar Arnholtz, Drexzoon WRE, Elijah Silvercross, Gray, John Carrington, and Severin Cerberus. Thank you very much.